2019 to order, and thank everyone for coming. First item on the agenda is I wanted to congratulate, on behalf of the St. John Board of Police Commissioners, Constable James Smith. Constable Smith isn't here today, but for the media that's here, it was recently announced that his participation at the 2019 World Police and Fire Games held back in August in China. He was a recipient in the what they call the small bore rifle competition, and won a gold medal at that. So it's a great kudos for him and for the St. John Police Force, and it's very nice to see one of our members recognized on the world stage. That's an event that has began in 1985. It's held every 2 years. The event hosts approximately 10,000 athletes from all over the world, and in 60 various sports and disciplines. The next games are taking place in the Netherlands in 2021, and hopefully we'll have some other participants at that. But on behalf of the St. John Board of Police Commissioners, we'd like to wish our congratulations to Constable Smith. The next item on the agenda is to welcome, I think that's where I'm at.
Minutes.
Oh no, sorry, we're going to go to the minutes first. The approval of minutes of July 16th, 2019. Could I have a motion approving those, please? Micah, thank you. Seconder?
Sure.
Your Worship, thank you. On the motion, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. The third item is the adoption of the agenda for today's meeting. Could I have a motion approving the agenda? Doug, thank you. Seconder, thank you, Jeff. On the motion, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Item number 4, is there any members that have a conflict of interest on anything? Please so declare if you do. No, not being any. I'll move to the consent agenda. A letter from the Common Clerk's Office dated July 9th, 2019 regarding the receiving the council resolution to receive for information the St. John Board of Police Commissioners 2018 operating budget for the December year end, and a recommendation that we receive and file that.
So moved.
Thank you, Your Worship. Seconded? Second. Thank you, Micah. On the motion, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. So the next item is presentations, and I'd like to welcome Samir Yamin from the City of St. John. And the energy manager is what I have written down, Mr. Yamin. You can certainly correct me if I'm wrong in the title. But welcome and thank you for coming.
Oh, no, thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Connell, for inviting me here. It's been a while since having been here. First time I've been in this board meeting. Your Worship, thank you. And so I'm very happy to be here. Very excited actually here to provide the council or board member here a quick update. I just want to call it a quick update of the police headquarters facility management program. I just want to put it on. And then just give you some update in terms of our energy management program. What we did here was police headquarters. We're going to talk about our total operating cost here, and also furthermore, we're going to tell you about what is our current and future initiative to further able to continue reduce our total operating costs and to ensure our building run efficiently as we do here all the time. But anything we do here at the police headquarters, we want to make sure everything is aligned with the City of St. John Climate Change Action Plan. It's very important, which was adopted by Council, Mayor and Council in May 6, 2019. I'm very excited with this plan here. I just always like when I go to a presentation, I want to give everybody an idea about what the climate change action plan and how this is aligned with what we're doing at the police headquarters. It's very important here for us, very important. So in May 2006, May 6, 2019, Common Council took a big step here, and I'm very proud of that here. They took and adopted the City of Saint Jean Climate Change Act. and then the Council has adopted two plans. One is the corporate plan, greenhouse gas action plan, and one for the community. And each of these plans has identified project, strategy, measure to help reduce the corporate greenhouse gases by 30% by 2025, and also for the community greenhouse gas by 9% by 2025. So when we talk about the corporate, we talk about the city corporate operation, which include fleet, transit, municipal building, water facilities, street light, and other things here. So basically, I'm going to concentrate on the corporate for this time because this is what's related to the police headquarters. And further, which I'm very impressed with, is the City of Saint Jean corporate operation. We're going to be carbon neutral by 2040 for our corporate operation, means there won't be no emitting, no greenhouse gas emission by 2040. So this is our strategy. So just to give you an idea about the City of Saint Jean corporate greenhouse gas and energy action plan. What our mission, what we do here, we are the center of excellence of the corporate sustainable environmental management. What we do here is we promote, advise, and develop and implement environmental initiatives on whether on existing or new infrastructure. And the reason we do this here is to lessen the effect of energy use on the environment as well as on our operating budget. And furthermore, to showcase the city as a leader in sustainable environmental management. And the City of Saint Jean is actually a leader in this here. We have won many national and even international work on our effort here. We have 5 objectives. First of all is we need to reduce our total energy use and greenhouse gases. We will also help assist other community and other business sectors to take such initiative, and also advise council and senior staff on the new technology, new innovative, new practices, new benchmark, new guideline on environmental and sound equipment. And the one thing I like here is we want to start to take ownership of their building and to start doing some measure to help reduce cost. And lastly is we want to foster a shift toward low carbon technology. Just to give you an idea about the extent of the City of Saint Jean corporate greenhouse gases, how much we emit. Currently we emitted as of 2015 23,000 tons of CO2. And we spend over $8.5 million in annual energy cost annually every year. So it's a big chunk of our capital, of our operating budget. As you can see here, we have this pie diagram here, or pie chart here, which show you which sector is emitted the most. We start with our building. We have close to 100 buildings, which emitted over 32.3%, followed by our vehicle fleet, which consists our fleet, garage fleet, building, transit, another 31.5%. And then we have our water and sewage facility. We have close to 80 to 90, over 80 water facility, which is sewage, pumping station, treatment, and so on. And then we have the street lights, which is 11.6%. Our goal to reduce our target by 30% by 2025. And long-term strategy to be carbon by 2040. So now we're going to talk about our stuff. This is about energy, our energy management program. The difference what we did when we took on this building here, we didn't wait for the building to be built and constructed and to start implementing energy management. We did a smart strategy is by ensuring that whatever measure we do, whether this is to be implemented into our design and construction, we want to reap the benefit immediately. And this has proven to be very successful, whether financially and environmentally. And I can tell you, I've worked on many buildings, and this is one of the buildings I'm very proud of, really, and it does meet and exceed our expectation. So what we did on this, we invested money in technology in this building. We know this building requires 100% fresh air. I'm not going to go too much into technical, and then we need to exhaust 100% fresh air. We know the building is generating a lot of heat from people like yourself. We have a lot of IT equipment. We have a 911 center which generates a lot of heat. And basically, we need to exhaust this heat outside. So before we do this here, we need to use this heat generated from this energy ventilator or heat recovery to preheat any outside building. I'm just giving you an example. This is a snapshot of our control system. As you can see, the outdoor temperature is 6 degrees. So we're going to bring 100% temperature 6 degrees. And we cannot bring 6 degrees, it's going to get cold. We need to condition this 6 degrees to bring it to at least 18, 19 degrees. This is a real-time data. So we have 16, and we are injecting 18 degrees into this building. And more than 100% of the energy we use to heat this 6 to 18 degrees is coming from the heat recovery from this building. We're not using any natural gas or electricity into this. So this helped reduce, this one was measured, helped reduce significantly our energy cost, very important. And we have a lot of measures to monitor if anything going on around you. And because we have a lot of heat generated inside the building, we are using some of the heat to preheat some of the domestic hot water. Just to give you an example of the distribution system we used to do in order to reduce our energy cost.
You're saying that the heat extracted from the building is enough to heat the outside air plus some of the hot water?
Yes, sometimes. It depends. This is a lot of strategy. I'm not going to go into first thermodynamic here. Energy.
That's a separate
we don't
tour.
Energy is never been, we don't destroy energy. Energy is transferred to something else. So there's always energy, but we never destroy energy. That's the first law of thermodynamics.
I can just see us down in the basement. 5 more minutes, we're going to be in the basement.
Physics 100.
So the other thing is we know this building costs us a lot to heat it. It's a 75,000 square feet building, and we need to heat it eventually. So we did invest in high tech at the time. It was 2012. It was very high tech technology. We were on the top of saying we put 2 high efficiency condensing boilers. They're running 97% efficiency, and mostly is to be the primary heat source to our distributed heat pump. And we use heat pump system because we find for this type of building, heat pump system is the most energy efficiency. I'll give you an example of what heat pump, I don't want to go too technical. If you have your electric baseboard heater, we call it COP. This is efficiency, we call it COP is 1, meaning that for every 1 kilowatt hour you use, you generate 1 BTU. If you use heat pump, your COP is 3. That means for every 1 kilowatt hour you use electricity, you generate 3 times BTU. So 3 times the heat. So just to give you an example. And the good about the heat pump is, what does the heat pump is move heat. You move heat somewhere else. You will take heat, you move it somewhere, you take it there. And this building is designed properly for this type of application because we have a lot heating load here. We have a lot of IT equipment, computer, 911 center, which create a lot of heat. And you need to get rid of this heat. And you need to condition this heat. So every time you condition, you create more heat. So you want to take this heat and put it somewhere else instead of wasting it. So you take the heat in the winter time, which you need, and you try to heat it somewhere into our water-to-water heat pump. So energy is not being destroyed, it's being transferred. And we have a smart control system to tell us when to do this, how to do it, what the best time to do the heating and so on, and how to control the boiler. And this is all part of our old heating system. So the next one, lighting system. At the time in 2012, when we designed this building in 2012, we constructed it, completed in 2013, the LED was not up to date. That was expensive. The performance of LED was not very good. Cost was expensive. There was no financial case to do LED here. So we went to the best high at the time. Was using a lot of T5 electronics at the time here, and we still have cheap. We still have a lot of this here, and we're hoping to replace it. So we use a high efficiency system at the time. We have a lot of daylight saving. We have a lot of occupancy sensor everywhere, lighting control. So the building is fully controlled with the lighting, everything here. And we did implement this through all the design. Other initiative, we look at the performance of it. We need to reduce the heat loss of the building. Everything we don't want heat loss. So what happened? We were using window glaze and double glaze. Now, technology is using triple double glaze, which is more effective. So I knew it. But remember, this building was designed in 2012. And look at the roof, increase the insulation on the roof, on the wall. And the most important thing is here, we engage staff from the beginning of the project. We engaged them. We didn't wait for the building to construct. We start explaining about the stair framing, how do you manage this building, and so on. So we did a good job on that here. And third, we did the third commission on the building to make sure the building is designed as per our requirement. So we went every step through this to make sure the building is designed properly. We have less efficiency, less operating when the building becomes into operation. And the last one here, many people tell you, you go to a building, we did this, this is good. But the problem, how do you optimize? How do you monitor the building? I mean, I've seen many buildings designed properly. They put everything, but once they start put it into a operation, the energy costs go high, nobody's monitoring. And this is a good example. we are running at 30 cents square foot for heating. And I'm not gonna put the province on the spot here, but look across of this building, police, what do you call this building? The courthouse. They're running down with 55 square foot. They are not running efficiency.
Wow.
Same building, same design. I will always tell them that. I told them they'll open it. So just to give you an example how important it
Somebody
is
else
to
will put
monitor
it on.
and manage this here. And this is, I know how much they're running, I know how much we're running here.
So we're not very solid.
So one thing what you do here, we have this 50 meter sub-meter, and we monitor every aspect of the building, how they performance, to see if there is any deficiency or anything supposed to be running not running. So all this is part of our measurement and verification system to continue further optimize the building. Not going into much detail. So we did this, I'm not going to do it here. So the benefit of us when we did this project, at the time we received $11 million in loan and grant money toward this construction of the building. So all the money we received, all the energy efficiency measures, all pays for. And we receive the money on it, and to work and to reduce our loan borrowing from that. And BPA will give us $75,000. The LEED Gold building, which is stand for Leader of Energy Efficiency Design, what one of the few LEED Gold building in the Marina at the time. It was in 2012, 2013, and I will receive Premier Award for this building. So just to get to the number here, I know some of you like the number, like Marvin like number. So this is a real number. This is a real number, and we are what are using here. We are using current rate. So we started in 2013. This is for the electrical consumption was 118,000. Electricity we cannot do too much because there's still it's more energy. We already implement the energy efficiency we needed. So 118, we're down to 2018 to 106,000 to around 12,000. We're looking at 96,000 to be target for this year. The best part of this project is our annual natural gas. Imagine we haven't done any energy efficiency technology on this building. We didn't put any energy recovery. We didn't put the high system. We did this year. And this is real number. It will cost us $243,000 in heat and natural gas to do this one here.
Sorry, can I interrupt for the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You said there's not much we can do with electricity.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can still do.
Okay.
Like that.
If we could generate our own, for example.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No,
But this is
seriously,
another
not-
possibility we're looking at. That's we can put solar panel as long as it's financially viable.
And sort of just a question to your last slide on some of the funding we'd received in the past. Are we still eligible for energy upgrade grants to the province and the feds?
Of course.
We are.
Of course. And yeah,
If we looked at LEDs or solar or...
That's a good question. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. I know that's the million number. So we're looking at 243,000 here. At 2003, we brought it down to 33,000. In 2008, it's 26,000. We hope to go to 21,000. I like to be conservative. I don't want to give you a number or something. So that's what we hope to get the target here. So just to tell you the important thing of having efficiency measures done.
So if we didn't have the efficiency measures, the building would cost us
$243,000.
Nice.
I mean, it is, and that's why it was a smart decision at the time by council, and to do it, let's do it right from the way we receive it. So it's annual. I tell people, environment and finance go work together. You know what I mean? When you do green infrastructure, it's good. It works with the environment. It both work together.
So in the 6 years since the building's opened, we've saved $1.2 million.
Yes.
Just on the
Yeah,
natural
yeah,
gas.
and we receive funding toward this energy efficiency. And just to give you some idea, I mean, conventionally we would spend $320,000. Currently is $125,000. We target $110,000. We save our annual service. We are saving $195,000. That's what I call this number here. Just to do. So now I'm going to jump into the energy management. I'm going to go to your operating budget. And this is real number. This is from your value. This is a breakdown cost by item, sector, or category, whatever you want to call it. And I just want to bring to your attention, nothing we can do about it. We pay property tax, 40% of our property tax is over $430,000 of our operating costs go to property taxes.
And what is our operating cost?
Next
slide.
Sorry, just to give you some, we're going to jump there, but just I want to give some idea about.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have our fuel, gas, electricity, water, janitors, administration, carpeting shop, but this is 40%, nothing we can do about it.
No.
How can we spend more money on janitors than electricity?
Uh,
And are there any janitor openings?
To the very
Actually, the janitor is around $145,000 more than electricity, and we are working to help to reduce this. We're working on this to help reduce, because there's a lot of janitorial service here in terms of, because this is, remember, this is 24 hours operation, and a lot of activities going on, stuff like that. But this is one of the initiatives we're going to be working on. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Just a question on the property taxes. You say there's nothing we can do, but have we verified the assessment rate is fair?
I don't know. I can
Because
come back
when
to
I was
this.
in the role of assessing public property taxes, and that one thing we always did, we were always comparing buildings and saying, is the assessment accurate? So
I think I have to talk to our real estate people to see about it. That's a good question.
I would just add, if I could describe, so we have been doing a lot of work at the city to work with the province on the whole issue of assessments, and we presented at the Law Amendments Committee last week, asking those, the deeper you dig, the harder it is to actually get answers to how certain assessments are arrived at, and sort of the fairness, but we have a whole team, some of Samir's colleagues who are drilling in, so we can certainly connect Marvin with Jacqueline Hamilton and that group. They're doing a lot of work on assessments right now.
this is a suggestion, I guess my experience is more at the federal level, where they have a payment in lieu of taxes. And so, you have the federal buildings scattered across the provinces too, but they've got a process they go through. You can see like what process they follow. So, just a suggestion.
That's good. So this is talking about our total operating budget. I put City Hall here for whatever reason, and this is real number. I put City Hall. Hi, Councilor, you missed a good one.
Yeah, known it was you, Samir, I would have been early.
So this is show you your annual operating costs over many years here. So I just put the City Hall in 2012 when you guys were occupying how much? 49,000 square feet? Yes. 49,000 square feet. And our total at the time was $1.24 million. So originally when we budget for this building, when we start our total operating budget, total operating cost for this building was, we're looking at 1.157, and this is real number. I took it from the budget and put it here. Then every year we kept working on the building, made it more efficient, reduce our operating costs. So in 2015, 909,000. Without going through the detail, we see a decline in our operating costs. In 2018, we were looking at $897,000, $900. So we see a nice decline in our operations cost, and we want to keep this decline going on. We're targeting $856,000, $50,000 saving. I'm conservative on this, but I think we can attain this one here, looking at this project here. So there is a decline here. So total reduction, 22%, around 259,000, and we're hoping to reduce by 300,000 from this year, not from the City Hall. And the only thing we didn't include here, we didn't include as part of this, I'm pretty sure there's some kind of you pay your loan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
I didn't include that. I don't know how much, but we get some money anyway from there. So just to go by square footage here, if you want to look at dollar square footage, is like City Hall, we are paying $25.40 on all operating budget, does not include the borrowing. And originally we have 15.3, we are down to 11.97, and we're hoping to be $11.42 square foot, which is comparable, very good one for this type of building. This building is run very efficient, maintaining properly. The only thing, as I indicated, we cannot control our property tax on that. So just to give you indication about comparison between how the total operating cost has been reduced every year. Yeah, so we are doing a lot. We're working in the building here. What we're doing right now here is we're doing, as part of our asset management, we're doing a energy audit and building condition on over 30 or 35 of our building. And the main idea of this exercise here, and which we get funding through FCM to do this exercise, is we need to improve the asset data inventory in the building. We're hoping that get all the asset inventory and to have in the future to start doing some kind of work order system to manage how much we spend on each of our assets, and then give us some idea where we need to spend the money further. And also as well to have council and mayor to make informed decision where the money should be invested. You know, if we know more, because financially we are very, very tight, and we need to use our money wisely here in order to get the profit we need. We need to look at developing 25 long term, so we know, because this building is going to get old. So infrastructure is going to renewal. So we have to look at the long term. We need to be more active, not reactive. And I'll give you an example about Market Square, but let's not talk about that. And then the most important things about it is we need to develop, we're going to identify energy, as you indicated, some energy opportunity using light to be able to reduce further our energy costs on that. So this is part of what we're doing on our future initiative. And this is aligned with the chief. I know you mentioned about LED lights. So this is part of our program. I'm not going to go into detail. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. So, and again, we need to be proactive. I mean, we need to prevent problems not existing. And we experience things, if you don't maintain asset, you lose the life cycle of the asset. Your expected useful will be less. You end up paying more in the end, and we start using it more and more. So we are doing preventive maintenance program on our equipment to ensure that all our brake system run properly, extended the useful life on it. Instead of being 15 or 20 years, we can extend it to 30 years, you know, so we don't have to invest more money. Doing a lot of water treatment, fire protection, elevator device, and other security. So we're doing a lot of work on that. One area we need to concentrate here is generatory management program. We need to find a way to be able to go from 145 to 150 to 100. We need to reduce our generator program. So we will be working closely, Chief, with your staff here to be able to reduce this cost drastically here. And so there's other measures we're working on it right now, but the most important thing is we make sure we can manage this building facility effectively now and in the future to help us reap the benefit. Otherwise, if we become reactive, we'll be in trouble. So, make it quick, get the number, thank you. So,
Questions?
questions?
That was good.
That was excellent, thank you.
Samir, in terms of policy, so for example, at night, I mean, I drive around and I see, including our building, I'm not sure if it's our floors, but folks with just lights on.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that in a building like this, you know, if the temperature's at, make numbers up, 18 versus 17, I mean, that could be a massive difference. So do we have those policies, and are we ingraining those policies?
Turns the heat down.
Yeah. So
No light here at night.
I wondered why the chief had a cardigan on all the time. Right?
The inspector has.
Yeah, Portanti's over there. But
No, this is a good question.
Yeah.
Your worship here is the best money to save is when you don't spend any money. The small stuff, that's the best way. That's the best way to do it, and this is good. Like for example, most of our building after 5 o'clock we turn off the air conditioning. Everything is turned off. We turn off. But it all depends on the operation. Like operations such as the police is 24 hours operation, so we have to keep things moving.
Okay.
No, and we have a system in place, and building energy management system, which we actually monitor our performance, monitor how the building performing, is everything shut down. Everything. So everything will be. So we start to learn as we go. We try to put KPI on our system, indicator to tell us if anything is not working properly, stuff like that. But and that's what you get the most benefit of your money is how can you optimize your building.
Right.
You know, there's a lot. I mean, you can put the best technology and you get the best photo op with any politician, but in the end, you're going to take this building and you know how you need to optimize it to make it run efficiently and save more money. And this is one idea.
And just one last quick thing, Mr. Chair, is that when you combine the work that Mr. Yemen has just talked to us about, and look at the climate change adaptation and mitigation policies that council has passed, and then when you combine that with, you know, St. John Energy and the work that they're doing with smart grid and wind and solar and the new Tesla battery, you know, installation, and I mean, this category, the city of St. John, I think, is really punching well above its weight class in terms of some of the work that it's doing. So it's really, really proud work, and Mr. Yemen is at the center of all good things.
Well, a good point, Your Worship, and I noticed, in one of the slides you showed the vehicles, the building itself, and the fleet management, that type of thing. And I noted from last month's session, as I was looking through the minutes, we purchased some Toyota Corollas for the police force and for management. In the old days, they would have been big Crown Victorias or cars like that. It would have been unheard of to have a Toyota Corolla as an unmarked police car for administrative or otherwise. Let's be frank. So obviously the department has recognized that it's important to work together with the city to try to reduce these types of costs.
If I could just add, so Samir's talked about moving to LED lights throughout this building, so there's more substantial savings on the energy side. Without getting into great detail with Brad here, but we've looked and we've talked to some folks about what's the possibility of utilizing the rooftop here, and it's got to be feasible. But if that works, then we can have some electric cars in the organization where we have our own electricity, charge. So there's those other opportunities. But what I really thought was important here is we work very closely with Samir and facility management, but his savings is a difference of, when you look at that, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, when you're trying to cut back to the bone and there's no more marrow left, right? This is where you save, where we can be efficient and go back to council and say, look, we've reduced our cost, and we're looking at our buildings. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have looked at our building for savings, we would have figured something out. So we're trying to find the most efficient way to run the building, and at the same time be efficient in the fact of, in the sense of, we can do with less money for the police budget over year. So I think this is
the service levels at all.
This is so this is a good news story when you compare the story of this building when it was first built, and we're showing that we saved. If you can do that comparable to what we would be paying today if we were still at City Hall for 49,000 square feet, and we're here at 75,000 square feet. And look at the difference in costs, and I appreciate there's a mortgage on the building and so forth, but there's a time when that this building is going to be paid for, and it's going to be much more efficient to have. So.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no,
appreciate your time.
Thank you,
and,
sir.
Excellent.
Need to receive and file?
Yes.
Mr. Chair? Yeah.
Get a motion to receive and file. Seconded by Doug. Thank you.
Thanks, Samir.
On the motion, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is item, there isn't any consideration of issues separate from the consent agenda, I don't believe. So we'll move to general correspondence under item 8, which would be 8.1, internal monthly report. Chief, I'll turn that over to you.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, for the months of July and August, there's 2 complaints registered, 10 complimentary correspondence, and 1 grievance received and filed.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions on that? Could I have a motion then to receive and file? Thank you, Michael. Seconded, Jeff. On the motion, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Item 8.2 is the overtime and court time expense report. Chief, I'll turn that to you.
Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions, can answer them, or Mr. Scaddon's here if there's anything.
Thank you, Chief. I note that this has been something requested, and on a monthly basis coming forward, we'll get this report on overtime. And any questions?
Just a comment, I guess, Mr. Chair, is that I don't know how long we've been reporting this. I suspect, from my head, it would be if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. But I think there's a couple of components. It seems like we've probably had overtime, and we had overtime. Let me ask it in the form of a question, Chief, for decades. So at a certain point, does it belong more in your salaries and benefits line in your budget, or do we keep it out as a separate report? But if we're just going to have it as a separate report and receive and file at every meeting versus talk about strategies for how to peel the onion back, if you will, and look for ways to do business differently, reduce it, change it, do something. So we should probably do one or the other. you know, it's a big number. You know, obviously we're tracking a bit over budget right now. But I guess I'm asking from a board perspective, are we just going to keep receiving and filing it, or are we going to?
No, it's a good point,
Yeah.
a good point, Your Worship, and, you know, of course, you know, with a service such as a police force, you're going to run into situations where you can't dictate what's going to happen. But on the other hand, as you said, you know, there's got to be some measuring tool, which we have, and then there's got to be a question asked, and as you did, Your Worship, how do we see ourselves managing this down the road to try to reduce it? And it's an easy question to ask. I don't think the answer is easy, but certainly, Chief, what's your thoughts, if any, at this stage? And to put you right on the spot, is it?
May I make a comment before you? I'm glad you raised it, Don. I think, you know, it's easy to pick apart any one line of a budget and say, why is that over, why is that under? That's not an effective analysis of a budget. I was disappointed recently to see, I think it was an editorial, some kind of commentary around the police being over budget and overtime. There was zero mention about the police budget being driven under budget. And all the incredible work that management does to drive efficiencies, like the presentation we just saw, like many of the other initiatives that we talk about at this table over and over again. So I think we're a little bit of in that case of that editor, I think we're a bit of a victim of ourselves, that we pull this one piece out in isolation. Do we need to address overtime issues? Absolutely. Do we need to address other line item issues? Of course we do. So I'm certainly personally in favor of having a more meaningful discussion about what aspects we're going to put out on the table in the public forum. I don't think that isolating one line item is a meaningful public discussion point. I think it's a disservice to the great work that we are doing budget-wise. We're bringing costs down and driving more efficiency every single day here. And by publishing this, we're not telling that story.
Fair comment.
So from my line of work, of course, I live and breathe this every day, and the philosophy that we have at the hotel is that when we talk about finances, don't repeat the numbers that are on a piece of paper. Talk about what drove those numbers. Talk about the story that is behind these numbers. And Marvin and I are looking at a report that shows the finances in a more all-encompassing picture, to your point, to not isolate, you know, just the overtime line that looks bad, because there's other lines that look good that offset this. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hoping to go to is, once that report is ready, is that report is what is provided, so that when we get to these meetings, we can just talk about the story, you know, talking about what was the need of the operation, you know, that drove these numbers, and not talk so much about, oh, this is the number. Mm-hmm. Well, I can see the number. Let's talk about what was the operational need that required this. What was the offset that we did to it? Let's have a business conversation. Let's not
and usually
numbers on a
in
piece
this
of paper.
type of an industry, the story behind it is usually not a good story. Mm-hmm. The story was there was an incident that happened, and I'm just speaking in generalities, obviously, and such that the current manpower that were designated for that shift couldn't handle, you know, an aggravated assault, whatever it was, you know, a sudden death, a car accident, a major incident, dictating, you know, out of the norm expenses that unfortunately can't be predicted on a line or, you know, a budget basis. So they do have to pick a number.
I think just one last comment. I mean, I guess it fits into, you know, we have a roughly $25 million budget, of which 87% is, you know, wages and benefits and overtime costs. So I mean, it's a broader discussion to say, you know, are we sustainable? How are we managing? What's the long-term view of where we're going? This happens to just be a piece of it. I think it sells quite well, frankly, in newspapers, but I'm not sure, again, how it's serving us. So I think I like it the way Micah said is, you know, how do we have a business, you know, a broader discussion about, you know, about these items, the story behind it, and then either sort of accept where we are or identify 2 or 3 actions that we're going to take to move ourselves forward.
Because in the end, I think it's our responsibility to display that we're fiscally responsible with the funds that are given and that we're not wasteful. So we need to make sure that this is the conversation that we're having, right? So to your point, you can't always control, depending on what happens, you know, with bad things. You know, there's costs that go with it. But as long as we have an educated conversation about it, proving that we're not just throwing money out of the window, which we're not doing, but we need to communicate that, and we need to show that, and we need to show that we're considerate, and do everything we can to balance, which Chief and Marvin have done very successfully. The budget from last year with the actual speak for itself, but they need to be spoken about in one piece and not pieces picked apart, to your point.
By definition, the role of a board of governors or commissioners like that is one of oversight and risk management. And I think too often organizations such as this can get into the weeds too much and detail operational issues. And I think one of our primary roles is to hire the chief, and the chief is responsible for day-to-day operations. And we have the obligation and the duty to look at the overall budget, see we're coming in on track. And I think it would be valuable for us to see a variance to budget, but the chief should be very comfortable saying, look, we went over on labor or overtime for this specific reason, but our team dug in and we saved money in other areas because we have the responsibility to balance the budget on a monthly basis. End of story. If we focus on just one piece of it, we're not doing our job, and we're not letting the chief do his job.
Yeah, good point. And typically we get into these discussions during budget time, as the chief has analyzed the year, and he can't predict everything as it goes forward. So, good point. Oversight is our job, and we hold the chief to account for coming together with a budget that he thinks is a reasonable one, and sometimes there's variances, but from the presentation we just received earlier, it's clear that they've got a handle on things that cost and how they're looking forward into the future to reduce that. So, you're right. We don't need to look into the weeds and get into those things. And as the budget time comes, we can have a general discussion on where were they at overall on overtime. Why was it? It's typically, if past history speaks to what we can expect, it's because of situations that have arisen that were not accounted for out of the norm. And as I think your worship said, 87% of the budget goes to salaries, and so there's not a lot of excess on the budget. So could I have a motion, if there's no further questions, to receive and file that report? Moved Doug, seconded Micah. On the motion, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Let's assume you didn't need to say anything on that, Chief.
No, it's all said.
Motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 8.3, Chief.
Definitely got a question.
Oh, sorry.
Are we going to get the report every month?
Yes. I saw a nodding of the head. Sorry, I didn't put that on. I think just for the purposes of the commission, unless you don't want it every month. It's your call. I think you do want it every month.
I think this is why you originally raised it, Don.
Yeah.
Is that your original question?
Well, I'm in my head, I'm reflecting. I think I agree with what Doug said in terms of governance and so on. I mean, I guess it's I'd like to hear some strategy and around the sustainability. And I know there's a lot of things being worked on, sort of within the organization. I mean, if I don't know. I guess I'm struggling with is overtime. It is what it is. Like that's not the sense I have. I think there's lots of opportunity, from past conversations to drill in there to try and handle and address those types of items in the future. Just like we're attacking the energy efficiency of the building, there's opportunities to do the same in other parts of the business. So I'm not trying to get in the chief's way. Just
Information purposes.
I would just suggest that it's part of maybe a summarized variance report where you say, here's the key items, and here's the variance, and overtime is one of them. So it's part of a bigger story, as opposed to just a standalone item.
And in the end, to your point, we're just looking that the numbers work. I don't need to dig through every single detail. I just kind of want to see the big picture, see what the major variances are, see where it comes out in the wash. And
you and Marvin are working on that? Is that
yeah.
Did you want to make a comment?
I just wanted, I guess, Doug said is, if you're going to look at the bulk of our budget, which is wages and benefits,
is, I think the fair thing to do is identify the overtime. More importantly, show you the salary line, because usually if we're under budget, that's offsetting the overtime. Because if we know that we're running short in some areas where we're saving in wages, we know we got to use that to backfill and so on. So you got to look at both pieces. Yeah. To the point of the board, one thing isolation is really not going to give you sort of the pulse of what's going on. So I think we could at least show the salary lines as well, because that's almost 90% of your budget, right? So I think you got to look at both components.
You need to be able to tell the story.
Exactly. Yeah. So we could add that.
Sure,
on a
that's great.
go-forward basis.
Yep, perfect. I think I did call for the question, and all those in favor, aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is 8.3, highlights of the monthly activity report, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions, please to answer them. I just pointed a couple of things. Year to date, our calls are a little bit above this time last year, and mental health calls continue to rise year over year.
Any questions? There being none, I'll call for a motion to receive and file. Thank you, Doug. Second, Mike. On the motion, all those in favor, aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, just one belated comment, and just to thank you to staff. I've had other conversations with the provincial government with regards to the safety barrier and reverse and fall bridge, and the data that the police have been able to provide on a timely basis has been very helpful in that discussion. So the fact that we're collecting that data in order to help make with other discussions to prevent things in the future, very helpful. So just thank you to the chief and staff for that.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll get a motion, and there's nothing else on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, so I have a motion to adjourn the open session meeting. Thank you, Your Worship. Seconder, Doug, thank you. On the motion, all those in favor, aye. In a few minutes, we'll move into close.